Welcome to The Cynical Developer, the podcast that helps you to improve your development knowledge and career through explaining the latest and greatest in development technology and providing you with what you need to succeed as a developer. We've recently launched our Patreon page, which can be found at cynicaldeveloper.com/Patreon. If you aren't familiar with Patreon, it's an easy way for those who are interested in this show to help out by simply pledging a small amount each month in sponsorship. Now that could be as little as $5 a month, which is about £3.80, or as much as you like. You will enable us to dedicate more time creating more content to help you, including videos, more blog posts, and even more shows. So if you can, head over to cynicaldeveloper.com/Patreon and get involved. In this episode, I wanted to talk about career prospects for developers. It's something that's been a bit of a hot topic of late with a few of my developer friends, and I wanted to address what appears to be a common theme between all of them. So we'll start with something that has been a huge driver for me over the years, and that's being happy in your job. If you wake up dreading the day ahead, it's not a good thing, and you're going to be miserable. And we're lucky enough to work in industries where we get to love what we do. You know, we write code, it's our passion. We get to do that every day and get paid to do it. So we should really be looking forward to it. Okay, maybe not every day, but most days. You know, we can't always be rays of sunshine. I definitely know that. Being cynical. Things could be worse, you know. You could be a dog food taster, you could be a lab rat. So put these things into proportion, I guess. And remember that it's an employee's market out there, not an employer's market. So if you're not happy in your job, work out why. You don't need to stay at that job. There's plenty of jobs out there. Don't be miserable. You know, like I said, work out why you're not happy. Is it the work that you're doing? Is it your team? Is it a specific person on the team? Is it your boss? Is it the pay? The lack of a good coffee machine? Because that's vital. Is it the commute? Is it that you feel that you're stagnating? After all, 5 years of doing the same thing every day, it's really only one day's experience repeated 1,095 times. It's not really 5 years of improving yourself and enjoying your career, is it? You know, it could be one of those, it could be many of those, it could be other things. And if you're not happy, list out what it is that makes you feel this way. Then see if you can do anything about it. I'm not talking about killing your boss or moving closer to your job. Nothing that drastic. Although moving closer to your job, I guess, isn't too bad if you really want to make it work. You know, can you talk to your team about the issues or talk to your boss? Can you ask about a pay rise maybe if it's the money? Do you know why the work that you're doing is terrible? Is there a route to sorting that out? Is it just that it's an awful code base? If you keep hitting walls, if you keep answering no to you can't talk to people, you can't sort it out, then it's probably time to move on. And like I've said before, if you can't change your job, then change your job. When you do start looking to move jobs, be aware of your contract. Most contracts aren't really worth the paper that they're printed on, but it's always good to know what you signed up for. And things to watch out for are notice periods. Different countries have different laws surrounding notice periods that you've got to give to your employers. So I'm not going to advise directly on this one. Did you do any training? Did you take any courses? And did the company pay for it? Because if they paid for it, they can tie you in to the business so that you can't leave for a certain period. And if you do leave before that period is completed, you may have to reimburse the company for the cost of the course or the training. Have a look at the holidays, the vacation time that you've taken. Did you take more than you've accrued? Again, you might owe the company for those extra holidays that you haven't yet accrued. Some businesses, if you haven't taken all of the accrued time, will pay you for that time, but a lot of them don't. So be prepared to either lose it or make the most of it and take those holidays. Use it for your interviews. Keep them on their toes as well. Don't miss out. One thing I think a lot of people struggle with is real expectations on their careers as well. And what I mean by this is that there's an expectation that your salary is going to keep going up and up and up, as it has done for maybe the last few years. The truth is, it's probably not. It's not going to go up. It'll probably stagnate eventually. There is a ceiling there to where you can go with your salaries, where you can go with your careers as well. There are a few glass ceilings along the way as well, but you have to push through those because most of them are they're not too tough to break through eventually. If you can't break through at your current place, move somewhere else, and don't just move sideways and up as well into the next tier. And keep in mind that there's only so far that you can go as a developer before you stop coding and start managing people. And managing people is not the forte of most developers, so you need to make a choice and be happy with it. Either you stop wanting that next step, or you take a leap of faith and start managing people. Before we go on, I'll just I've talked about there's a few layers there. I'll talk about those, and I think that there's about 6 layers to progression for a developer. And these are generalized layers, really. They encompass a lot of different roles, so don't start crying to me if I haven't mentioned your specific role. But those would be junior developer, developer, senior developer, team lead or lead developer, similar roles, architect. Those architect roles tend to be on the same level as that. And then you've got development, project and product managers, and then you're into senior manager such as CTO, CIO, that sort of thing. And once you pass your senior developer status, once you're looking at those team leader roles and architect roles, don't be surprised if you're writing less code. In some cases, you'll be probably writing no code. And your time is going to be chasing up the team, doing code reviews, sitting in meetings, and making choices about what tech's going to be used on a project, rather than actually cutting code. So, is that something that you want? Yeah, and once you pass those roles, you will definitely be writing no code. At least not code that you're going to be paid for writing anymore. And as I said, most developers aren't cut out really for leadership roles. Some dream of it, and some can learn it, but it's not for everybody. I know several developers who thought it was for them, and they made that next step, and after a few months, they regretted it, and most of them have actually come back to coding. So you've been warned. Our jobs do get boring. Working on the same code day in and day out, it is monotonous. And I have shiny object syndrome as well. So I know how hard it is to stay motivated on a project. If you find yourself in this position and you have a fair few years of good experience behind you, not that one day experience that I mentioned before, maybe looking at consultancy or contracting is a good choice for you, because every 3, 6, 12 months or so, you move on to a new company with a new project, and it keeps things fresh and interesting. And you can also take off a few months in between contracts if you're good with your money. There's also the added bonus that you'll get paid a bit more, but don't be fooled by the pretty coins without considering a few of the other things. There's no sick pay. There's no paid leave. You've got possibilities of being out of work for extended periods of time when you're looking for a new contract. And when you do take time off for holidays and vacations or doctor's appointments, you can start to look at your day rate, and then suddenly that £500 holiday that was really that was a steal, it's no longer cheap anymore, because you're counting up those days that you're away. And it takes a little while to stop looking at time off like that. And it can make things a little bit stressful as well. Other stressful aspects to it are chasing businesses for invoicing, remembering to invoice, applying for a lot of jobs, and interviewing a lot. And I've also found that interviewing for contract roles can be a damn sight harder than for permanent roles. You may also need to commute over longer distances than your current role or what you're used to. And you may even have to live away during the week. And if you have a family, that can be tough. And that will add to the stress levels. Or could be party central. I guess it depends how you perceive it, how you look at it. But in the long run, though, if you can't take the heat, then stay out of the kitchen, because it is stressful at times. And again, it's not for everybody. There are some legal things that you need to do as well if you wanted to look at these sort of roles, and that can change from country to country. But generally, it's register a corporation, and depending on your country's rules, depends on how you go about doing that. Make sure that you pay your taxes. I took the easy route. I pay an accountant monthly to look after my accounts, my business accounts, my invoicing, paying me. Simple. But it's something that you've got to think about. And what I'm trying to say is, look at what you have, look at what you want, work out how to get to where you want to be. Be prepared. Don't just sit back and float along. Be proactive. It's your career, it's your life. Don't waste it by not knowing where you're going and what you're doing. Take a little bit of control over your career, and just don't be afraid. You know, if you move jobs, what's the worst that could happen? You have to move jobs again. If you don't like the contract, or you don't like contracting, go back to being a permie. There's always choices there. There's always options. So hopefully it's given you something to think about for your next career move. So until next time, thanks for listening to The Cynical Developer. I'm James Stoddart, and this was Developer Promotion Prospects. If you have any questions about this or any other episode, then drop us an email, a tweet, or leave a comment on the website, where you can find all the resource links, show notes for each episode. And if you enjoy this episode, please leave a review on your favourite podcast platform, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever it is, and help The Cynical Developer to reach more developers around the globe.